Can you stand here so I can see?
But it does wash out the the projection. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's.
I'll bring a gel next time. We need like a diffuser gel and like a yeah.
Enough sheet of paper might do.
It'll burn. It's halogen. All right. That's better. And the speaker stands here. Against here. Blah, 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 blah. Because then this gets you without too much shadow on the screen.
Ready?
Ready for what?
For this.
What the hell is that?
It's very smart.
Unique. And?
Very inspiring, sir.
See for yourself.
There is booze. Please buy some. Hello and welcome to Nerd Night. This is number 61, Monster Machine Learning. Just a couple things. Buy lots of drinks, one. Two, if you're on this side of the room, there is a camera over there for the live stream audience at home that catches the whole screen. So just try not to stand up mid-talk, or if you do, just don't do it for very long. Just in front of this camera here. All right, moving on. Nerd Night we are the local franchise of a global speaking. Can someone get them to turn off the music at the bar, please? I don't want to trigger a copyright strike on YouTube. And it's harshing my my vibe. Yeah. Nerd Night is the local franchise of a global event. There are Nerd Nights all over the world. There are, in fact, 4 Nerd Nights in Japan. I always feel like I have to name them, but I'm not going to do that today. They know who they are. They know who they are. Every month we host a couple of speakers who talk about their field of expertise. This can be anything. This can be science, communication, art, humanities, weird hobbies, activism, that kind of thing. Help us out by following us on social media, talking about us there, and retweeting our posts, tagging us in posts about interesting stuff, etc., etc., etc. We're on Mastodon for sure. It's down here. It's hard to see. At NN Tokyo. That used to be our Twitter handle. I'm not sure we post anything on Twitter anymore because it's kind of... Do we? Oh. Just announcements because, Twitter. Sorry, X. Yeah, because we don't, we're not, what's that? Oh, yeah, the clickers should be beside you there somewhere. The skinny one. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and it's, just as a heads up, it's backwards. The one you think is going to go forward is going to go back today. I don't know why. It's just that kind of day. We've been having that kind of night here. Public service message, please use Firefox. Even if it's just to check your packages, because if that Firefox usage falls under 2%, the US government will stop supporting it, at which point we will only have corporate browsers available. So let's do that. Let's hit the next card. So spacebar there. Yeah. Our next event is October 18th, right here at Ryozan Park Lounge. Where you go in Sugamo if you can still eat without assistance. That's a joke because Sugamo is kind of famous for old people. By the way, if you want to speak at a future event, you can talk to me, but please don't talk to him. Talk to the other Andrew. He's our recruiter, or you can talk to Selena and she'll point you in the right direction. Selena's the person who you point. Yes, at Andrew. So just cut out the middle person and go right to Andrew. All right, next slide, please. We have beakers for sale. We've got 2 beakers tonight for sale. I just literally could not carry more stuff tonight. These are Tokyo Nerd Night branded beakers. Once they're gone, they're gone. I don't think we'll probably order. It takes years to sell them all. They're made from real lab-grade glass. You can put cold stuff in there, hot stuff in there. Don't do cold stuff and then hot stuff. It still will explode. And if you put really hot stuff in there, remember, there's no handle on it. You will burn your fingerprints off if you have really, really hot stuff in there and touch it. Yeah, you can commit more crimes. Big on crimes here at, yeah, let's hit the next slide. Usual call for volunteers. Need people to do everything, particularly set up, and I don't know if you know how to run a soundboard, if you know how to set up things like, yeah, if you know technical stuff, that would be handy. I need even someone to help me just set up the event in our ticketing software, just something that will take some of the stress off on the night of the show. That would be great. And yeah, we need people for sort of all these things. I'd really like to make a new trailer. The audio quality on the current one is bugging me. But I don't have time. Yeah, talk to a team member. So talk to me or talk to Andrew, and we'll figure that out. Next slide, please. We have a mailing list, and apparently that slide is, God damn it. Hold on. This is okay. So long story short, this is not the computer I was supposed to be running the slides on tonight. And just a second. No, this is important. There's a joke. There's a joke with this, so I have to fix it. Where is it? Oh, fuck this shit. Okay, pretend there's a mailing list thing with a QR code. The QR code is up there. Anyway, the rest of this should appear. So we only post tasteful dick pics to our mailing list. Like, next slide. Are you fucking kidding me? This one shouldn't have been. Next slide. I had a whole bit here. Are you? Wait. What's going on here? These should not be. These are all. What? How? No, all these files are here. Why are they not? Okay. Picture player, picture player, picture player. Why am I having such? Okay. Okay, just a second. Just a sec. I'm going to fix this. I am going to fix this. Oh, God. God damn it. Coming. Do you see mailing list? Open. Was not imported because it was not a fuck you. Okay, well, we'll have to do it next time. I had a whole great, usually what happens is I say, okay, we only send tasteful dick pics, and then a picture of someone named Dick comes up. It's really funny. But I had a whole thing this time, and I worked like a good hour on it, and I'm really pissed off. So let's just go past all the dick pics now. I had a deep dive. I had a nerdy deep dive on the dick pic joke. I'm so pissed off. All right. Anyway, agenda tonight. I know this is disappointing because the dick pic joke was so great. Once again, we bring you two interesting people. Zach, and I didn't ask them how to pronounce their names before because I was too busy. Is it Wolpe? Your family name? Wolpe. Okay. Zach Wolpe. It is Zach, right? Not Zach. Okay, good. Zach Wolpe is going to tell us how to use machine learning to solve hard problems in psychiatry. Sorry, is this new? I installed Dr. Spaetzo in 1991. I think that solved all my problems. That might be a deep cut for anyone. No? Yeah. Oh, I went at the back. Dr. Spaetzo, there was a sound card called the Sound Blaster, SB, and they had a fake psychiatrist program you could install that came with the sound card, and it was called Dr. Spaetzo. The jokes are less funny if you have to explain them. Our second speaker tonight is Pino. I also didn't ask you how to pronounce your name. Pino Heye. Heye. Okay. Pino Heye. He's going to take us on a journey to uncover the almost forgotten Shibuya River. Hopefully no one's liver will get eaten in the process. That might be a Japanese mythology deep cut. No one? Okay. It's the kappa are supposed to eat your liver. Okay. Anyway, after each talk... Tonight's just filled with disappointments. After each talk, there's going to be a short Q&A. Please wait for the mic to ask your questions because we do have people watching at home, watching remotely. And if you don't use the microphone, they can't hear you. All right, so next slide. We've got, should be speaker one, Zach Wolpe. How to use machine learning to solve hard problems in psychiatry. Zach, so this is the part where I read the bio. Zach is a data scientist / machine learning engineer at MediBio. Is that how to pronounce that? Okay. He works with physicians and psychiatrists to design and implement software to help understand psychiatric conditions through large, unstructured, high-frequency, it's all in brackets, physiological data. He also runs an AI, ML ops consultancy where they focus on building ML pipelines and getting models to production and researching other letters of the alphabet that they can use in the future. That's a lot of letters. He has given me no personal information about himself, so I will add that he likes daffodil-flavored ice cream, and in his spare time, he repaints Tonka trucks while making vroom vroom noises. Everyone, give it up for Zach!
Thanks very much for the introduction. I'm not sure my clicker works anymore.
Give it a second. I gotta do a thing here. And there you go. Now hold on. Now try it.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Yes, solving problems in psychiatry with machine learning.
Do you have a microphone?
I thought this was my microphone.
You can't hear it over there? The problem is the speaker is here. They don't have one on that side of the room, so let me just bump it a little bit.
Yeah, you want me to use that?
No, it's fine. No, just talk.
Okay. I'll project. Okay, so solving problems in psychiatry with machine learning. So what I'm going to talk about today is machine learning and data and AI are playing an increasingly, there we go, an increasingly important role in modern medicine, and in particular in my field, in psychiatry. And I'm going to talk about some of the problems we face where we're actually building these things, not just in a lab in theory, but actually doing things. All my monsters are AI generated, so I don't speak any Japanese, so I hope the text is all appropriate. But I just stuck it on there, and I said to Andrew, the American, if you see something funny, let me know. Okay. Well, there we go. Right. The models can't always be relied on. No, I'm.
Try again. Okay, hold on. So wait, that was me. Try again.
No.
Oh wait, that's why. Hold on. We're using the other one, right? We're using the other one. Can you pass that? That kind of night. There we go.
Okay, what do you call a nerd night after party? The aftermath. And, and of course, this joke was brought to us by GPT, which wouldn't be a good data scientist if I didn't get AI to do my work for me. So I had a pretty good bio. That's what I do. I'm a machine learning engineer and a data scientist, and I work primarily at a company called MediBio, and we focus on making psychiatry empirical. So where psychiatry in the past, it's all about your clinical interview, the treatment you receive, and how well things are monitored and things. It's very soft and psychological and subjective. And we build software that tries to make that more empirical. So what that looks like is we have a medical team and we have an engineering team, which I'm a part of, and we look at what are the actual physiological changes in people's bodies during different psychiatric conditions. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. So just a primer, it's a very diverse, eclectic group, more focused on dick pics than on science sometimes. So just to give everyone a background, what is machine learning? I'm sure you're all familiar with AI just because of how topical and trendy it is. For all intents and purposes, it's basically the same thing. There's a nice, really good quote in the industry. If it's machine learning versus AI, if it's written in Python, it's probably machine learning. If it's written in a PowerPoint, it's probably AI. And it's just about extracting patterns from data. We just want to learn from data and really rely on that. We live in this empirical age where we're all just generating a lot of data all the time. It's all around us in every single platform you interact with, and it's a really important part of your life, whether you know it or not. And it's becoming increasingly important in medicine, and very interesting. We're generating enormous amounts of medicine over the amounts of data in medicine over the last few decades. Everything is digitized, both in a clinical sense, and then further in the home environment. We all have wearables and smartphones, and we're generating a lot of data all the time. And the market where I'm based and where we work primarily in America, there's this huge shift from the hospital to the home environment. And that introduces an explosion of data. And working in the home environment is very useful. It can be very personal and cheaper for insurance companies, and that's what drives the whole market. But we're generating all this data. So what do we do with this data? Now, machine learning is amazing, and you hear all these amazing, exciting things about what we can do with AI, and that's if it makes it to production. And that's the big if of everything. Big tech does a lot of great things. They are very well resourced, and you've got thousands and thousands of engineers and amazing data that they can rely on, but they drive a lot of hype. Things like Google mentioning AI 120 times in a keynote. These graphs, which are really interesting, is if you look at AI mentions in earning calls over the last couple of years, it's just an explosion. So everybody wants to be a part of this, but is not always adversed or prepared to actually build these systems and make it work outside of an academic setting, because machine learning is quite hard. So what are the problems we face in actually deploying machine learning models? There's this nice little cartoon from the New Yorker of a guy struggling to write, and he messes up his papers and messes up his papers, and the bot comes in and extrapolates the pattern that he's forming, and we end up with this stack of papers. And that happens a lot in industry. If we have to break down what are the big barriers to getting machine learning to work, the first thing is it's very cheap and easy to have an idea of what data is going to do and what patterns are going to emerge, and it's very different when you go and build these systems. The second thing is related to the previous slide, is what's driving these things. The majority of the time we don't actually need a machine learning system. Basic software system would do the trick. And then the middle layer is the boring software dev layer. That's really the important thing, is do we have the data engineering and data quality to support these systems? And then secondly, it's just finally, it's just a very new and interesting space. It's inherently experimental. You go into building something with, and I'll give you a concrete example in a minute, without a clear idea of if this is going to pan out. So there's an inherent element of science and experimentation, which makes it unique to other areas of software engineering. And this is what the industry has struggled with as it matures as it's been maturing over the last 2 decades. So because of that, you can visualize those issues in 3 sections. We have where the data is coming from, the data inputs or the requirements, the lack of expertise from management. And then you have data science in the middle, which is most of the time separated from the business. The nerds run off and build models and sit in a corner and never do anything with them. And then you have the traditional software engineering pipelines, and how do we stitch that all together? So as a consequence of that, this is what you see the majority of the time in industry. These are the real world machine learning workflows at almost all small companies. It's first one is marketing. It's no actual machine learning. It's just a bunch of if statements. And this is our clever ML engine. The second one is probably the best of the 3, is we don't have any capacity to do any interesting novel machine learning, but we just do a bunch of data processing and analytics. And the third one is the dangerous tier that's driven by all the hype, where every company wants to be involved in this, so they hire a bunch of data scientists without any plan or direction to integrate that with the rest of the development environment. But then within the space I work in, we encounter a whole new suite of issues, and machine learning and biomedical engineering has effectively all of those problems plus, and a number of them here. So first of all, there's this deep cross-functional expertise required. It's a highly regulated space. Everything in the US market, everything goes through the FDA, and which can take months and months and months and changes your entire workflow. We have on the research side, a lot of the research that comes out relies on very small, unreliable data sets. There's not clear explainability, both mathematically and in the experiments and what they're doing, making big claims to publish papers, and we have this replication crisis, and this all falls into consideration with our workflow, because you'll see a paper that solves all of your issues, but they have 20 subjects and they're making these big claims. So how do we go about resolving this? And to do this, we've built a very effective workflow between all the interdisciplinary partners at the company. And our goal, put simply, could be to move research to production as quickly as possible in a way that we can test and integrate with our existing offerings. And whereas the majority of the time companies get sucked into that phase 2, we really want to focus on the whole pipeline. So I'll talk you through an example in a minute, but what that looks like is starting off engaging deeply with the medical research side of the business, then defining a specification in a way that is useful to time box and deliver something that's not just an open-ended project. Phase 2 is then the machine learning. And then how do we go about building and deploying these things in a production setting? And if you're familiar with DevOps, it's like the operations of delivering software, and with machine learning, we basically have all the core of DevOps with additional metrics to account for the models. So here's an example. This is something we've been working on. This is not a paper that we've published. We're not a research lab, but it's something that's very interesting to a lot of the software that we build. So this paper is using EEG-based data sets for deep learning for MDD, which is depressive disorder. So what that looks like in a clinical setting is people go in for a study or something like that. We work a lot in sleep centers, and they'll get wired up with electrodes, and that produces this EEG data. So we want to see what patterns emerge in the data across people with different psychiatric conditions. And my job and my team's job is to build the models to predict that. And a lot of the guys that come out of university, this is the workflow that they expect, which is completely unrealistic. We have this beautiful paper, and we find a code base, and it's written in something that we can use, and it works. This is like a non-existent thing. This paper in particular I shared because it's solved a lot of the issues from the science side, and primarily because they're very clear both in the data and the methods that are used, but mathematically. And when you're working in these very interdisciplinary fields, the research that comes out can often drive from very different sides. It could be a medical lab or just a pure mathematics lab. And if it's medicine, they often brush over the really, really important details. So we take a paper like this and see where if it can fit into our existing offerings, and this, for example, can. And what we do then to develop this really good workflow is we can break that out into a bunch of modules. And this paper, what they've done is they articulate it well and explain everything, so you can go and program this yourself if that's something you're interested in. And they explain exactly the electrodes that are used to generate the data. This type of information is very useful for us because if we're in a clinical setting, we probably have a lot of electrodes generating a lot of data. But like I said, we're now all moving to the home environment. So if we're going to rely on something like Apple Watch or just a take-home headset, our models need to be able to account for this increase in noise. So they give us good information on that. Then there's a whole bunch of steps that form, this is basic electrical engineering, signal processing that we do on all these systems. And we take those out as a team and build them as individual software components that we can then plug into all our different products or different offerings. And we compartmentalize and build those out separately. And then that forms the basis of our machine learning. These terms here are just the specific machine learning neural net architectures, this MRCNN. It's very technical stuff, but it's just a detailed description of the machine learning architecture. So, but starting by this, we can already come out with something where we're building pipelines to ingest the data effectively. We're building reusable code that is that we're able to use elsewhere, test. And so even if the model doesn't come out with exactly what we need, probably we have a lot of that built in-house already at this stage. And if not, we're only adding to an offering that's going to be useful for us downstream. And so from a technical point of view, what that looks like for any people in software in the room is machine learning as microservices. And what we do is we build all our pipelines out as microservices. So each of those components, each of those individual processing or deep learning algorithms that we stitch together form their own module. The machine learning world basically runs on Python, so that's our stack. And we can just stitch those together. So with a basic setup of running a config that gives us the infrastructure as code, we can spin up and test something like this very quickly. And if we have something useful, we can deploy that and use that and query that API very quickly. A larger view of what the technical architecture might look like for for devs again is we start off with the medical research team. They bring these papers to us and they say, particularly the older guys are quite interesting because they're very opinionated with their intuition. They'll come and say, oh, we really expect to see this change in the brain during this psychiatric condition. And for one example I can give you of that is people with depression or anxiety don't rest while they sleep, so their brains are very active. So even if they sleep a lot, they're always tired because they don't rest. So that's a pattern that we can observe very readily, and we can build algorithms for that. So they'll come to us and say, oh, we got this literature, this is really exciting, let's build this out and test this. And then we'll go and enter this experimental phase, which is building out this pipeline, and we'll spin up some instances, train the model, track everything as we go, and work iteratively with them until we either come to a decision point of this is something we want to pursue, or this is something that we either don't have the data for, or there's just not enough evidence to support. If we then want to deploy a model, you package it, containerize it, and serve it as an API. And this is the quickest way to get something out there. So that's a very niche and specific example. How do we generalize from that? What are the key takeaways that we do in our workflow to actually be successful in this space? We keep domain experts in the loop. We spec our projects well, understanding worst and best case analysis. We have a modular workflow that gives us compound returns. We would receive a lot of benefit on that workflow regardless of the outcome. We maximize reusability. That's a dangerous line because you can over-engineer anything. So that has to be coupled with the next point of we minimize the time to a proof of concept. And we really treat machine learning as a software engineering discipline. And this is where the industry is moving. When things become engineering, things move from science to engineering as they mature, because engineering is about process and understanding things and stress testing things. And this is where the industry has evolved. We now have this massive explosion of really amazing open source and paid machine learning platforms like ChatGPT or Google Gemini. And these, I'm sure a lot of you have interacted with these things, and they're just getting better at such an alarming rate. And what's really exciting for us as practitioners is, or anyone wanting to be involved in the space, is with these off-the-shelf systems, you can really get started where you are, and individual components of the pipeline I just spoke about can be effectively outsourced from these open source models as a service system. So if you're very technical and involved as we are, then you might use that as a baseline and train your own custom models on top of that. Or you can just use that as an individual component, and we're doing this already. Basically, every single company is now building their own chatbots, which is maybe not the best use of time, but it's really interesting space. There's really amazing stuff there, and it gets better at such an alarming rate that it's really fun to be a part of. So, final takeaways. We have a DevOps-centric flow to machine learning. We want to understand this and spec projects well. That's comes with experience, but that's a lot of issues that companies faced a while ago is just running off and just trying to tweak models and build models forever without actually building and serving anything. We have a microservices approach to machine learning, and the result is we deliver faster, we can build POCs very quickly, and we have maintainable, reusable code. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, it's too hot. This is mic 1. Just pull the gain. The gain's turned up because you thought it was him. Just the gain is the red knob at the top. Red knob at the very top. Turn that. Yeah. And now, but then now turn it on so people can hear me. There we go. Thank you so much. Now we do the Q&A. The other microphone, where is the other microphone? Okay, super. Someone want to pass, actually, yeah, Ren, can you pass that out? It looks like we've got a question with no sleeves at the back there. And yeah, why don't we start with that, and I will move out of your way so you can take the stage again.
Testing. Sounds like it's on? Sweet. Okay. Thanks for the presentation. I appreciate it from someone that works in this, but I was really curious about some like practical applications based on one of the, I guess, some of the data you were talking about. So like theoretically, you've got someone with, what was it called? MDD, something depressive, like some kind of depression. So you get all this data from all these electrodes, and then that turns into machine learning. And that machine learning you can turn into some sort of API, and then what the hell is the practical application for that? Because like, does it help you, like, so say you've got some other patient and they're exhibiting some kind of pattern, the machine's like, this guy has this because we've got this data from everyone else?
Yeah, so that's a brilliant question. Yeah, we do a lot of screening. So when somebody goes into these medical centers and they're wired up for various tests, then as part of the output analysis that's given to the physician is these types of metrics, and it's more guiding a physician. It'll say, this person's at risk for this, maybe this is something you should talk about, or something like that. That's primary application, yeah. The applications are moving towards long-term monitoring, and that's the one of the core benefits of operating in the home environment, is that if we have, for example, some people buy these take-home sets where they can get proxy for EEG, then they can sleep with that once a week, and we can monitor these things over many months and see if there's improvements.
Great, thank you.
A good question.
I'll run over to the next one. This thing's still on, right? Yeah. Okay. This beard first, and then this beard.
Okay. Thanks for the talk. As you explained, you actually have applications for that, but when you're in the medical field, there's like a lot of danger related to AI. Especially machine learning can be wrong many times. So how do you mitigate that? Do you like add some layer of explainability to what you like? If you categorize somebody maybe as depressive, is there like you have a percentage indicating on how confident you are based on your models? So can you explain a bit more how you do that?
Yeah, very good question. So effectively, we mitigate that by trying to appease FDA, and FDA comes down on you the whole time about these things, rightfully so, right? And what we tend to do is you err on the safe side. So for example, in that product that we're talking about is a screening tool, and so there's a distinction in the medical space between screening and diagnostics. And so this cannot diagnose you, but we structure our training pipelines in a way that would rather pick somebody up than miss somebody, because it's going to be dealt with by a physician. So you account for it in the application, because missing somebody is more important than, because the doctor's going to make the final call, right? So missing somebody is more important than a false positive of saying, yeah, this person has depression. So it depends on application specifically, but FDA has a lot of guidelines and regulations that talk about these things. The thing about this space is, of course, the regulation trails. So now they come out with all these things about what you're allowed to do 5 years after things have been happening. But yeah, it's effectively you handle it on an application specific way, and you err on the safe side.
Okay, thanks.
So I feel like I was going to ask a very similar question, and so I'm just going to slightly rephrase it and ask you if you think that there is a chance, maybe not now, but in the future, to gain like some understanding, like for say for the medical side, from one of these models, And by that I mean, say, like, the ability of saying, well, let's say that this system is pretty good at screening patients for whatever condition. Can we ever, extrapolate something from this system that says, oh, this seems to have captured this pattern of neural activity, and then this seems to be like the crucial part, like for this screening process, and this is what we should be using whenever we want to understand whether people have such and such condition.
Yeah, that is effectively what we're doing, right? That's the whole premise. Is number one, what's different from a skilled person looking at this data and picking things out is that we can automate that, and then we can pick up trends that are not viable, not observable to a person when this data scales. So that is effectively what we're doing. Yeah. I don't know if that answers close enough.
Other questions? Oh, you want to get them, Ren?
Thank you. It's a two-part question. First, I want to confirm, are you adopting a device agnostic approach? Is it like...
how do you mean device agnostic?
So it's so from your talk, what I get is like you guys are not developing your own hardware. You're trying to tap into what everybody already has.
No, so we don't build hardware, but we do have specific hardware that we use.
Okay, so you're targeting one particular hardware.
Yeah, and it's not really, it doesn't matter if it's built by a particular company, but it's more like there's medical grades, and if their devices have certain clearance, then we can use it for something. But then this is the big open question with the home environment stuff, because there's a lot of amazing off-the-shelf things. You can white label things from China all the time, and there's these little devices. You can get a little thing like this that gives you good readings when you sleep, and these headsets, but the data is unreliable. So that's kind of the challenge we're in now, is seeing what's good enough in a home environment, and that is radically different devices.
So yeah, you basically touched on my second question a little bit there. If you're not targeting one particular hardware, it does seem like you're going a little bit of hardware agnostic. So, and you also mentioned in your presentation that data is a concern, right? Like the size of data, the quality of data. But if we are trying to target all these different devices by building one model or like one class of models, how do you make sure that it will work fine for all these different devices? Isn't that a very, like, if FDA does give an okay for one set of devices, how does it translate to other set of devices?
Yeah, so if the device is medically clear, then we'll be able to use that device. But if we're using something experimental or effectively a new data source, a big part of the initial build is just to gauge the results and look at what's the actual performance if we run these systems. And that's a big part of what we do before you go and use it. And there's a lot of analysis on comparing. And that's this thing with the home environment stuff, and like Apple Watch, and this metric of where the data is good enough is quite interesting, because it's getting good.
All right, thank you.
Other questions? Oh, okay.
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Oh, there we go. So is the expectation that every psychiatric condition has some sort of physiological pattern, or have you found things that seemingly don't, or expect you'll find things that don't?
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't make an expectation that large. It's more, we often find things that we suspect that go against the literature, but it's more we focus on specific things, and so anxiety and depression are the main ones, and the medical team will really drive the niche of research that we're trying to see if we can. So it becomes quite specialized.
Have we? Oh, we've got one more. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And then, yeah, I'm a product manager, so I'm curious about what's the business model of your product or your service. It's like subscription, or it's like API request per like per how much per API request, or like, or if I'm the hardware manufacturer and then I'm willing to share more data to your company, then could I get some discount or whatever? So yeah, I'm curious about that part.
Yeah, so effectively run in a suite of other, we run as like a software product for a bigger company that will do all this analysis on someone. And so what drives a lot of the remuneration models, especially in America, is what insurance will pay for. And that's why the FDA clearance is so important, because with different clearance, you can claim insurance back, and that basically drives the direction of particular products. So it's all about what you can claim insurance for.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got time for one more question if there is one. Otherwise, okay, over there. Yeah.
Happy to chat afterwards too.
Yes, yeah, he's not going to disappear into puff of smoke after his talk.
Thank you, Zach, for your great presentation. What I wondered, I'm not an expert on EEG, and how it will be different from individual to individual if the symptom is related to the signal. It can be a different to people. This is my assumption, but the machine learning is really dependent on input data's properness. And how can you remove the outlier data? It means that illegal or not normal data to bring to the training data.
Yeah, so a huge part of any system that we build is about pre-processing and cleaning that data, and a lot of our models just do effectively that. When you build these systems, you'll have one model that is your product or your offering, but that'll be a number of models. Or EEG, for example, relies on just classical signal processing and these types of things, and this is how you'll really clean the data. And there'll be a lot of sub-models that produce a result that's just used as an input to that, and then that's how there's a lot of pre-processing and structuring that goes into building something like this. But we can chat about this if you like.
Yeah, later maybe. Yeah. Thank you.
For sure.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for Q&A right now, which means that, yeah, let's give a big hand for Zach. Thank you, Zach. And we're going to take a 15, 20-minute break. Please just remember, we're here at Ryozan Park, which is also a co-working space. They might have flyers out or something somewhere. On the piano, there are flyers out on the piano. Really cool. They have like a little daycare and stuff too, if you have kids, and they can like play while you work. It's very interesting. They have some other sites as well, not just this one. And yeah, they're basically sponsoring us by letting us use this space. And in return, we say stuff like this, and we also say, maybe you should buy a drink at the bar. But you know, hey, I'm going to buy a drink at the bar. So go get there before me. And that's it. We'll be back in 15, 20 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're back. And we're back. You can quietly order drinks while I continue to talk. You don't want to miss this, though, because I found my slides. I found my slides that were missing earlier. And I'm actually hoping this may be my last time emceeing this event for a while. I'm hoping to pass off MC duties after a very long time. So yeah, this may be my last time emceeing. So this is going to be my last time making the mailing list dick jokes. So I want to make these count. So joining the mailing list, we only send tasteful dick pics, blah, blah, blah. And next slide, tasteful dick pics like... Anybody? Who's this? Whoa, what was that? Yeah, Dick Turp. So, okay, now I thought I was going to have to go through like all the slides. So next slide. I thought I was going to go, oh, did you know this guy? And next slide. Yeah, huh? Next slide. Has anyone seen this? This is fantastic. The new Dick Turpin show with Noel, what's his name? Is it Gallagher? No. Anyway, he's very funny. Noel Fielding, yes. Friggin' hilarious. I binge watched that just because I ended up doing a deep dive on Dick Turpin when I decided to make this joke. All right, next slide. Yeah, see, there was my reveal. And okay, so here's an interesting thing. This ended up becoming a deep dive. Not only did I watch all 6 episodes of the completely made up adventures of Dick Turpin, or something the title's similar to that, but I also... There's a lot of dicks involved in this story, because if we go to the next slide, you'll see that the first person who wrote anything about the life of Richard Dick Turpin, his name is kind of written there at the top. It's Richard Bays. So another Dick wrote about Dick. And then also, there's a very famous, go to the next slide, there's a very famous 1979 TV show, and it starred Dick O'Sullivan. and next slide. Oh, it did. Oh, it wasn't there. Okay, the next slide was basically like the title card for that show. The creator of that show, also Richard. It was dicks all the way down. Okay, let's jump ahead. Dicks all the way down. All right, let's just jump ahead now because we're way behind. This was from the beginning of the show. Yeah, he talked. Yeah, we know. Sorry, there's a lot of fades built in here because this is supposed to, okay, keep going. Yes, keep going. Is it? It's taking a lot of load. Okay. And, okay, so we're on the beakers. Bye, beakers. All right, next slide. We come back from the break, I talk about the beakers, but we know. All right, this space also hosts Tokyo Humanities Cafe. They're really cool. Is anyone from Humanities Cafe here tonight? Oh, you're an organizer? Oh, you go to it. It's fun, right? If I put a QR code there, if you want to scan it, you can also just search Tokyo Humanities Cafe on the internet. That works as well. Yeah, they do a similar event to ours, except they focus on humanities. They zoom in where we have much wider scope. Let's hit the next slide. And also, our friends Space Cafe have an event coming up. Next slide will load automatically by itself. So this is their next one. This is in a few days. So, right? Yeah. Sorry, my watch is all fucked up. It always has the date wrong. In 4 days. Okay. Because my watch already says September 21st. It's a long story. Yeah. So, Ken, do you want to say, this is, I should say, yeah, like this is our opportunity to give you like a sneak peek at our sister event that came out. I didn't mean for it to come out like that. Dicks all the way down. Ken, is there anything you want to say about this? I'll repeat it for the people at home.
No, it's if you like space, it's an event kind of like this. You come watch and talk and hang out with the speaker and everyone else, have drinks. It's fun.
Yeah, it's like this except about space.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just repeating that for the people who aren't in the room. All right, next slide. This microphone stand is, forget it. Oh yeah, right. So Nerd Nite is run by the theater company that I run called YTG, Yokohama Theater Group. We're a registered nonprofit. We've existed since 1900, and we do mostly kind of weird, experimental, collectively created theater. if you are interested in supporting that kind of thing, it's sort of, it's sort of an ongoing challenge to make weird theater sustainable. What's the business model here? I don't know. It's my wife having a real job. But if you feel like you're coming here, you're already supporting us by being here. So well done, you. But if you wanted to do something else, you can go there. All right, let's hit the next slide. That's enough talking. Oh, I was going to say, never mind. We need to move on. Oh, good God. Remind me how to pronounce your last name? Heye. So, are you Finnish?
No, I'm German.
You're German?
Yeah.
Okay. I just
I think you can judge from my accent.
Not after 2 gin and tonics, I can't. Pino Heye, say it again. Heye. He's going to talk to us about, I have notes for this. Where's my phone? Can you pass me my phone? So I was like extemporizing on the mailing list thing. Here we go. I actually wrote something for this. I didn't just think I was going to wing it. He has completed an urban design and art project about the revitalization of the Shibuya River called Shibuya Gawa Monster. Coincidentally, this is the title of tonight's talk. I guess I don't know what that means. Pino also did not provide me any details about himself, so again, I am forced to make stuff up. He was a child prodigy who swam all of Japan's rivers by the age of 12 and then got addicted to scarves. At the age of 18, he checked himself into rehab and is no longer gracing the cover of the tabloids after passing out on the Yamanote line under a pile of ascots and stoles. Give it up for Pino. Here he is.
Hi, I'm Pino. There's a photo that I want to show.
Yeah, we're going to flip over. Sorry, multitasking.
No, that's cool.
I've got to, where is it?
Yeah, anyway, I can begin. I'm Pino. I'm an architect actually from Germany. I think you all know this already. Voila. And this is the project that I will talk about. So this is kind of the cover photo. Yeah. And how do I click here?
Left right.
No, it doesn't work.
I think it might. Hold on.
I think you have to open and close it again.
No. I got to put it in presentation mode. But I got to find the menu to do that, which is. Hold on. It's been a while since we had a PDF file, and this computer is not the one we normally run the presentations on, so just give me a second. There we go. Now try it now.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. So here you already kind of see a monstrous situation. You see the highway. You see a super polluted river, and you see some people, but the resolution is not so good. But anyway, you see some people that enjoy actually this situation in this kind of staircase building. And I just love this photo, so this is the first photo. And I kind of begin by telling you why I come to this conclusion to do an urban design project in Tokyo. So I did this in 2022 when during COVID, every architect kind of began to want to escape to the countryside, build farms, and kind of escape from everybody. I think Hakone became very famous at the time. And really, no one wanted to live in the city anymore. This was really beginning of the end of architects designing cities. And I really love cities all my entire life. When I was 19, I directly moved to Beijing. And of course, in the end, I end in Tokyo because it's the biggest city in the world. And and I really like collaboration of people. I love networking. And so I always had this idea that especially during COVID, we should do something about networking and bringing people together and do it in the city center. And this is not only an idea because of COVID, but actually in Europe, we have so many refugees and cities not gonna go away. And we also don't have enough land to make everybody move to the countryside. Really, the core question for architects is make nice cities. And the Shibuya River is the only river in Tokyo that is completely engulfed in the urban center of Tokyo, and is super heavily affected by climate change because every year there's more flooding. And so I thought it's a very relevant topic for urban designers. Yeah, and so what you see here is the watershed of the river. And we kind of came to the conclusion that you cannot make urban design with aesthetic skyscrapers, but yeah, so what actually do we need to design? And then we came to find the Shibuya River and the idea to make a kind of bioregional territorial planning, which does not exist. There's no way of funding this or way of promoting it, but I just think it's such an interesting way to think about it, and so I just did it. Yeah, here it's maybe dumb, but here I have I draw for you the Yamanote line, and it's in the top. There's Shinjuku Station. It goes directly. Shinjuku South Gate is still in the watershed of the river, and north is not anymore. And then of course Shibuya, and in the south Meguru. And in total, it's 23 square kilometers, so that you have a feeling of the size of this river system. Yeah, and I just show you some photos that you know what we are talking about. So this, of course, Shibuya Station, the scramble, and directly underneath is the river, actually. Like, this road is one of the tributaries of the river, but we just don't know it. But I think it's so cool. It's really in the center of the city, maybe most urban place in the world. So perfect. And this, again, is in Meiji Jingu, is the only natural watershed that exists in Tokyo and is also part of the Shibuya River. And this is Cat Street. I think maybe some of you know this shopping district in Harajuku. And underneath, you have this, which is also part of the Shibuya River system. And I think it's so aesthetic. It's kind of crazy, but it is actually very aesthetic. And so I love it. And this was a flooding facility. And they are all over the river. There's 3 or 4 facilities now. Yeah, and I always show this photo kind of to begin my talk, because you have the highway, you have pollution, you have lots of concrete, but actually the light is kind of nice, and there's some plants, and you can almost imagine that there is a walkway, and it almost could be nice. Yeah. So what comes next? Nice. So, actually, I'm an architect, and so we begin really to dig all the area, like, for example, what typology of building, how much gardens, how much graveyards, how much parks, schools, because they are all different building typologies, and they offer different potential to add ecological or social infrastructures. And so we made a whole mapping of the whole area, what you can find. And what is kind of interesting, for example, of 23 square kilometers, we found 3.5 square kilometer of roof that is not being used. And 3.5 square kilometer is more than all parks combined. So there's Meiji Jingu, there is the Botanical Garden, and 2 more big parks, actually. And this is more than that. So that's a huge potential, actually, already to do something. So it doesn't look so desperate anymore when you see that. What's next? Yeah. And then we also begin to, here, for example, what we did was tracking where the water comes from. So actually, most of the water now comes from a water treatment plant. And this is 99%. And the reason why they do this is because everything is full of concrete that cracks if it's not wet. And so we have to maintain more than 100 times the natural water level of this river to maintain the concrete that we only have to maintain itself. And then there's a few more sources of wastewater, basically. And of course also water quality was a huge topic that took a long time for me to figure out. And history, ongoing projects, flooding problems, what they are trying to do about it, and what areas is endangered, and like all of this biodiversity, geography. And we did a lot of interviews with everybody. And then we try to condense everything in a map, because we are architects. And so here there's a better view. Like, in this map, we have basically every potential to do something about the river that you can just find. So any type of building that has any chance of being involved in the project, parking lot is super huge, because I hope that we won't need so many cars in the future. And so that's a very huge potential. Also, like what type of river is flowing, and where, for example, the Oshii aqueduct is very important and completely artificial. It's not part of an ecological river system, but also like community activities, like for example, Shotengai. They always do very interesting projects if you talk with them. What I didn't think, I thought it's just a shopping street, but very often they build theaters, or it's really crazy. And so what we kind of did was, from all this information, we tried to come up with a kind of strategy where to do projects, where to do urban design projects. And so what you see here is the 4 most important areas that we determined by superimposing all this information. And when, for example, a very large empty land comes very close to the Oshii aqueduct, like for example the one in the top, I think you cannot read it. Anyway, there's a huge potential to just, with very little construction, kind of activate all this land, because you can divert water, sterile water from the Oshii aqueduct to this land, create a wetland, potentially with the Shinjuku Gion Park. And there's a lot of potentials like this where you actually wouldn't have to do much, but you could have a kind of big ecological impact. Like for example, also in the bottom there's a waste burning power plant that has a lot of discharge water that could be part of the river system, and there's a lot of empty land around it, but it's also not being integrated. And then this was kind of the end, because so we have such a technocratic vision of the river, of all buildings, and like, oh, where's the water coming from, and who manages it, and what are the companies involved, and so on. But I think it's kind of clear that no matter what we find out about this complex thing, it's not really enough, and we will definitely make some kind of mistake. And so at this point we begin to think more about all the interviews that we had, and like, how would such a project actually happen after, let's say, we do this initial 4 projects? How can there be a kind of iterative process of cascading action to actually do this kind of project on this scale? And so this is where we come up with this idea of the monster. Originally kind of like a Bruno Latour style monster, where it's so complicated and you kind of have to fight with it a little bit, because we don't know all the information. And then so we found this geographic map, and we found also an artist that drew the river like a monster. And so that was a moment when we came up with this idea that basically, how can we go from this idea of Bruno Latour, or maybe Fritz Lang, very kind of evil vision, to what kind of process of collaboration, of empathy, of bringing people together, and also kind of maybe forcing politically people to do something, that you can come to the monster being an actor in the city that is positive. And so at this point it became a kind of experimental art project. And yeah, so we did all these interviews, and during this time we had a lot of partners. We found a lot of partners, like for example the Tokyo Corporation, a lot of citizen groups, but I was so proud, the German embassy and the city of Tokyo. So cool. Yeah, this was really cool. And yeah, and then we, this is nicer. And we did 6 tours from different points of view of what the monster is and what it means to improve the monster. And we kind of organized explorations with these people and interviewed them at the same time. What do you want to do about this? What do you think about this new construction project? And kind of on the place get statement what they think about it. Yeah, and the first day was with a Shotengai. That's the only really remaining Shotengai in the center of Shibuya. This is the Chiyoda Ginger Shrine. I think maybe some of you know this because there's a bar, not in the frame, but there's a bar. Yeah, and it's crazy. And they enthusiastically talk about 2 hours how they fight with the Tokyo Corporation and what they want to do to survive, and which province, like they have 5 provinces in Japan that they invite for rock concerts and stuff. It's, yeah, and there is actually life left, which I didn't think, but it's so cool. And then the second day was with a this group is called Shibuya Gawa Renaissance, and they are so dedicated since 20 years, try to raise awareness of the existence of this river. And here you see outside of Shinjuku Guion Park, this guy, we even we crawl under the metro behind gardens of people and really try to find every little bit that you can even at all see still of the river. Yeah, this was super long. It's dark here, but yeah, very dedicated guy. And this was day 3 with the Tokyo Corporation. Oh wow, sorry. And yeah, and this was so interesting because they actually have a huge project to restore the river, but obviously they have no understanding of ecology or kind of bottom-up community action. But they want to be involved in that. There's 35 projects that they started at the time. Now it's more of we make a small garden here, we make a co-working space for people to talk here. 35 projects, but they were always so apologetic, like, oh, this is only so small, oh, we are sorry, but here also we named this stone after this kami or something. And so I think this is so interesting because I think they recognize that they should do something, but directly apologize to us for not knowing what to do. And I think in this, that is a direct case where such a project of networking can actually become of a big use. And then day 4 was with a super fantastic artist, Keiko Torigoe. She's professor in Aoyama Gakuen and a soundscape designer. And so this day was kind of about soundscape, and we traced the sound of the river, which is actually in all of this 23 square kilometer. You can hear it in many places. But then it also evolved about the daily culture of people and remnants of culture about this ecosystem in the city. And it was just very entertaining. And the day 5th was about the city's perspective on the river. So this is the flood facility very close to Shibuya Station. And I think this is just so aesthetic and beautiful, and people never see it. But it really feels like a monster because there's such a almost like a noise concert of sound of these pumps. Is crazy, super aesthetic. And then the last day, I was so happy. It was really a great honor because we were invited to the Meiji Shrine, and you know the Meiji Shrine is the symbol of industrialization actually for Emperor Meiji, who made the industrialization in Japan. And at the same time, it is maybe the only real remnants of nature in Tokyo that you can easily access. And so it's really, I think this place kind of symbolizes the whole vision of the project to find aesthetics in the city and also kind of, I don't know, merge this conflicting visions into a project. And yeah, so this was, I think this picture kind of symbolizes the whole project. Yeah, and so then we kind of try to come back to strategically linking all these actors. So we just ask after every walk and during every walk to, whenever someone said, oh, we are doing this, we want this, this is a problem, to write it down. And then we did kind of the same, oh, there's a mistake, anyway. We also made 100 designs, more than 100 designs, what you could do about transforming the river. And yeah, and then we superimposed it like we did before. But now it's about the social context, about people that you can contact, that you can talk with, and ideas and visions that already exist. And so when, for example, someone from the Tokyo Corporation writes something, we want to do this, or we already do this, and then Ishii-san from the Renaissance has a problem in the same location, that's almost like a invitation for collaboration. And so here, what we tried was to make a map of possibilities of linking actors. And then we had a conference in Aoyama Gakuen. We had an exhibition in the United Nations. And we made a party. So this was super cool. This was in Miyashita Park. and we had like 10 musicians for the whole, like for 5 hours. And this was super cool. Yeah, and so this was what we kind of wanted to do in the beginning, to make a perfect master plan of how to transform an ecosystem. And I think, given the wealth of information and amount of actors, it's so clear that this kind of project is just not it's not even considerable a good project. And I think that this vision, to start with this technocratic idea and then superimpose all the life that you can find in the city and the people and the actual culture on it, I think it's much closer to an actual possibility to do such a project. And yeah, and so interestingly, here you think this is such a dystopic picture, but actually not, because this whole dream of kind of integrating all these technologies and making everything kind of symbiotically work together already exists here, because the highway and the river are already in a symbiotic mutual beneficial relation, because the shade that the highway provides limits the amount of algae and pollution that the river spills into the ocean. And so this is super unexpected, but I think it's such an optimistic point that many things already kind of work, and it's more like in which direction can we walk from here rather than imposing a design. And I think this photo also symbolizes this. And so, yeah, that's the end. I think this is the end. Yeah.
And that again. Trying to multitask. All right. Pino, thank you. This mic's a bit hot. You can probably pull the gain down a little bit. So yeah, it's time for Q&A. I see a question there. Ren, why don't you pass that off?
I want to ask for a favor. Can you put back the monster again?
Yeah, here.
No. The design that the artist made, that is so cool.
It's cool, right?
It's
I thought it's
fantastic. You should use it more. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's really. It's not a design. It's a retrace of this.
Yeah.
It really exists.
No, this is the character that you should be using all the time.
I always use. Oh, where is it? No, this is the one that I always use. Yeah. So cool, right? Well,
who's the author?
I don't know. I wanted to ask my sensei, but I couldn't reach him today because I have it in the presentation normally, but I don't know why I deleted it. And I didn't want to resubmit one, and then yeah.
I mean, it should be the symbol of the city.
Yeah. I think it's like really like that, and there's a lot of.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, cool. Fascinating project. I'm an anthropologist. The people are my jam, so we should talk more. Also, my supervisor at Sophia actually works with rivers in Setagayaku, so he's doing quite similar work, so I should... Anyway. I was just wondering, because you did so many interviews and workshops and stuff with people from the community and corporations, how did you find everyone, and how did you arrange to do all that? Like, was it in Japanese? Was it in English? Like, who kind of sorted that out?
Half. Yeah, I don't know. I just randomly decided that if I go to Japan, I should contact the German embassy. I didn't know that this is actually a thing, but they exist to help people. And
that would not be true for the American one.
Yeah. Anyway, and then we had there's a kind of house of science, and they do lots of AI things normally. But but we were referred, and then they helped us a lot, and then we just found a lot of people. But we also didn't find nearly all people that exist actually. But we only had 6 days.
Yeah,
so we kind of selected very politically, and then my sensei chose the Meiji Shrine. Of course, this is so very important. Tokyo Corporation, because you have to be polite. So.
Thank you.
I see one back there. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the talk. I mean, you talked about a lot of you talked to a lot of people. You've seen a lot of ideas that people have that they would like to do. If you had like no limit on the money and no politics was involved and anything, we're totally free to do what you want. Do you have any project that you really want to do on the Shibuya River?
Yeah, I have many, but
Choose one.
For
Or two,
example,
maybe.
imagine the highway to be like, okay, the top can still be for cars and the bottom can be for bicycles or for walking, because there's lots of communities along the river that they even completely forgot that the actual center of the community is the river because it's so ugly. But imagine you're just 10 meters higher and all this kind of small scale houses, you have actually a really good view from the top of the highway. But we couldn't make this walk, so I didn't show it. And this is actually could be a really cool linking element to make a kind of long park to link all these groups together, and you essentially only need to build staircases. And that would be really cool. Of course, some kind of exhibition of this fantastic underground facilities, because is it nature, is it technology? Actually, it's kind of vague. It's really also kind of a hybrid space, and they are so aesthetic. And I think this is just the strongest kind of technoid aesthetic that you can find in Tokyo, this underground facilities. And I think people should actually know this, that there is aesthetic to be found in a just urban environment also. And so this is actually super strong. It's really a super strong impression. And maybe that's just a walkway or something to make it visible. And then I really wish that people would begin to think about these millions of designs that you can actually do, because there's so many possibilities. What is actually just obvious, like for example, the pollution of the river, a lot of it comes from phosphor, which we just kind of shit into the river. And this is in France, you know, in Normandy, the super
I'm
polluted.
Belgian, so no, I don't know.
Huh?
I'm Belgian, so I don't know.
I'm so sorry. But it's also in Belgium. We have the same problem like in Tokyo Bay, actually, that we have huge patches of just completely polluted shores. And it's the kind of same problem. And I think that we should begin to think of this kind of small-scale typology that individual people can afford. And again, Tokyo is perfect for this because you only have small plots. So it's so difficult to make a very expensive project because it takes so long time. So that's an opportunity to do something smaller. And what we can do on an individual perspective to address all these issues. And that's kind of engineering. Is it kind of architecture? It's a little bit in the middle. But I think there's such a strong potential to do something that by its process generates some positive effect for individuals and not corporations. And I think we should follow up on this kind of things. It's fantastic. It's almost like a mine of ideas.
Cool, thanks.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Are your slides available?
Not really.
Okay.
I guess.
Well, I would
maybe
like
now.
to see some of this. It was hard to view it from the back, and I live on top of that river, so I'd like to learn more about it. So, if there's some way I could maybe talk to you
I guess
afterwards.
maybe now they are available.
Okay. Well, maybe I can talk to you afterwards.
Yeah,
Okay,
I guess.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm right the way on the edge. Hello, Pino.
hi.
Thank you for the presentation. Are you aware of the project in Central Seoul that goes through like the central
that is
district?
why I talk about
Right.
that is why I talk
Exactly.
about the
Yeah.
highway, because in Seoul they demolished the highway, and I think this was 10 billion euro kind of range of a project, but completely failed ecologically because they didn't know this relationship between the algae production and the highway. And that is why we begin to think of this kind of iterative small approach, because how can you actually make sure that you don't do this kind of drastic mistake?
Ah, okay. So
Yeah,
I
that
was,
is why I
the
mentioned
second
this,
part
but I
of my
don't want
question.
to say something negative
Yeah.
about someone else, but
Yeah, the
voilà.
second part of my question was going to be, asking whether that sort of large-scale project would be possible, given that you've done interviews and everything.
I guess
but
that it is, for example, the Tokyo Corporation, they try this because they have a lot of land in Hamamatsu, which is near the oystery, and in Shibuya. But actually not, because even for them it's like 10 times, 20 times more expensive than what they have, because it's just the city center. And the complexity, and I think just even if you were to do something like that, in the end you would end up to do maybe 300, 400 small projects. And then I think it is much more organic and participatory and more bottom-up to just, I think, go with the flow. It just, in the end, it makes sense to think of projects like this. The only problem that you have is that there's no way of thinking of urban planning from a perspective without a plan, but just who is on board, basically. But actually, I think Japan may be the country to do something like that, because there's, for example, the Tokyo Biennale, the Centerline Art Show in Yokohama, there's a few like that. And now they just do a lot of art projects, maybe 100 art projects in like 2 weeks in the Tokyo Biennale, for example. But they have a framework, they have funding for this, and they actually do try more and more to involve bottom-up actors, and of course they have corporate sponsoring. So that's a structure of a project that already exists that potentially could do such a project for real. So it actually kind of already exists. But I don't know, the scope or the vision is not there, but the structure of such a project already exists in Tokyo, but really only in Japan. In Europe, we don't have it.
Cool.
We don't have
Thank you.
something like that.
Any other questions? Oh, okay.
So, Japan tends to have a song for almost everything. Are you aware of any good Japanese river songs? And what is your favorite one?
There's a few, but Shibuya River has a lot of pop songs, so I'm out. But yeah, there are a few.
Can you sing one?
No. I think my voice is not so aesthetic as I wish.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No. And also, I really don't know it anymore. But I can... Yeah, actually, so this river here from Yoyogi Uehara, this stream is actually famous for a song. And there was lots of festivals dedicated to playing music and walking along the river. It was a thing for 300 years almost, actually. So if you want to find out more about this, you should go to Yoyogi Uehara and go to Yoyogi Hachiman. And from there, there's a lot of bars. You can just make a bar tour to Shibuya Station. I don't know. That's something that I can give you, but I will not sing.
Thank you for the talk. What's next for you in this project? Are you still continuing?
Yeah, kind of. I was kind of pushed to do a PhD to have a way to continue. But I actually more want to build a design studio. And I will do something like this, but bigger, for the Centerline Art Biennale. And I built a studio, to push the idea. And I participate in the framework that could potentially do such projects. And I want to build a studio from that, more than the PhD.
Good luck.
All right. Anything? Oh, I got to see Rod got one in front. On the sofa.
Remarkably, lying like this, I've stayed awake because the talk was interesting. So how much of this? I don't know how long a what do you call it? A fall there is along the river. So how much of this is estuary and how much of it's freshwater?
So there is actually split into Furugawa and Shibuya Gawa, and the connection is the end of this is here. And so when you that's actually kind of interesting, because you see that I crop a lot of the river here, because this is all reclaimed land after here, the Yamanote line actually goes along the old coast, actually already in the water in the first years. And so this is not really part of the ecosystem anymore, and this is all ocean level. Every water here is already ocean level. So it goes actually quite deep. When there's high tide, it reaches all the way to the point where the Furugawa and the Shibuya Gawa connect, and that is why they have two names, I think. Yeah. And the point is here. Here. So maybe like 5 kilometers? Something like that.
Cool, thanks.
So can you just define for us, you mentioned at the beginning, what is a watershed?
So all the place, all land, when it rains, the water reaches the river. And we did that because, I think I didn't say that, but a lot of such a project is, of course, to do a lot of transformation of parking lots, doing the roof gardens, managing the surface water, evaporating a lot of water so the river doesn't have to function so much as a flood prevention system. And so that is this kind of activity influenced the biodiversity, influenced the urban heat, and influenced the energy consumption of the city and the water quality, depending on the rainfall, which is of course the main source of the original water of the river. And that is why we decided to use the watershed as the project site.
I see. So it doesn't, so you're saying most of the surface water comes from rain, not from old Japanese men peeing into the gutters after a long night of drinking.
I saw it. I saw it in Ebisu.
We've all
was
seen it.
very surprised.
We've all
that.
seen it. I was 10 days off the boat the first time I saw it. All right. Any other questions now that I've ruined that? Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's a good place to call it. Yeah, Pino, thank you so much.
Thanks.
And I'm gonna just, so I'm gonna close that. You don't mind?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. And oops, can't get rid of it. Oh, don't save, Jesus. All right. Just, I'm feeding back a little bit. I'm going to move away from the speaker. All right, I got my last. Oh, you know what? I don't have the thank you slides because I didn't get the list of people before I had to leave the house. So, Pino, thank you so much. Thank you to Zach, our other speaker. Get a big round of applause for those guys. Thank you to the volunteers who make Nerd Night work. Of course, you know, Andrew Todd, who used to be our bartender, but now he sits there. But he actually is the one who books and arranges and talks with all our speakers, and the event really would not be possible without him. It really wouldn't, because I do not have the people skills or the time to do what he does. So Andrew, thank you so much. Okay. He deserves singled out. Big thank you to Rio, who not only not here, probably also not watching because she's really busy and she's in California now. But she still handles, even though she's in California, she still handles all our publicity, making sure that stuff gets out to the weekly magazines in time. They've all got crazy 30-day deadlines now. So she makes sure that happens with some prodding from Andrew. But it always happens. And so I'd like to thank the volunteers who are on site tonight. So we've got Daria, who's been running our sound. We've got Ren, who's new, and he's been handling some of the slide stuff. He's been getting me drinks. And hopefully we'll see more of you, sir. And yes. Thank you to Selena on door, who all of you know because you saw her on the way in. She's the one with the real people skills. And have I forgotten anybody? Melvin! Thank you. How do I forget Melvin? He was here when I got here. He's the only person who gets here earlier than I do, and he helps me set stuff up, and he runs our Camera One Heye. So everybody watching this at home, it's thanks to him. Yeah, that's it though, right? Oh yeah, Rod's been live mastodoning and live tooting. Thank you, Rod, and thank all of you for coming tonight. You can stick around. We've got to be out of here by 10:30, but it's not 10:30 yet. And if the bar is still open, I'm sure they'd appreciate you buying more drinks. We surely would, because it'll make them happy and keep us coming back here. But otherwise, we'll see you next month on the 18th of October, right here. Same bat time, same bat channel, and another indication of how old I am. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for coming to Nerd Night. Have a good night.